All right, today we're diving into something that is just truly mind-boggling. We're talking about one of the most fundamental processes in all of nature, how a single cell, a cell smaller than a grain of salt, can develop into a complete, complex human being. It's an incredible story of biology, timing, and just sheer wonder. I mean, how does that even happen? It feels like magic, right? But it's not. As we're about to see, it's actually an incredibly precise biological program. So let's break down exactly how it all works. Okay, so here's the plan. We're going to start with the essential blueprints, the male and female systems. Then we'll look at how the key players, the sperm and egg, are actually made. After that, we'll dive into the monthly cycle, the incredible moment of union, that 9-month marathon of development, and finally, the big arrival. All right, let's jump right in. First up, the blueprints. Look, to really get how this all works, we've got to get familiar with the two systems that make it all possible. And they are very different, but you'll see they are perfectly complementary. So, right off the bat, you can see these two systems have totally different strategies. I mean, think about it like this. The male system is like a high-volume factory, just constantly churning out sperm from puberty onward. The female system, though, it's more like a vault. It starts with a finite number of really precious eggs that get released on this super strict cyclical schedule. So when you look inside the male system, it's really a team effort. The testes, they're the main production hub for both the sperm and the hormones. Then you've got these Sertoli cells, which are basically the nursery, feeding the developing sperm. At the same time, Leydig cells are pumping out the male hormones. And to top it all off, other glands create the fluid that gives the sperm energy and, a medium to travel in. Okay, now let's flip over to the female system. This one is all about creating a nurturing environment. The ovaries produce the egg, and that egg travels down the fallopian tube. And that tube, that's the key spot. It's where fertilization usually happens. The final destination is the uterus, which has this special inner lining called the endometrium. You can really think of it as preparing a perfect nursery. Every single month, just on the off chance a fertilized egg is on its way. So we've got the hardware down. Now let's zoom in on the main characters themselves, the sperm and the egg. How are they actually made? Well, there's a fancy scientific term for it, gametogenesis, but that's really just a long way of saying making the key cells. Sperm production is just incredibly efficient. It all kicks off at puberty. A single parent cell goes through this special two-step division. And the result? You get 4 identical ready-to-go sperm cells from just one original cell. After that, they just need to mature a bit into those tiny swimmers we all know, ready for their big mission. And the scale of this factory? It's just staggering. We're talking 200 to 300 million sperm in a single go. It's a total numbers game, right? The whole strategy is to make sure that even with a long, tough journey ahead, at least one of them is going to make it to the final destination. Now, if you think that's wild, egg formation, or oogenesis, is a completely different story. Get this, it starts before a female is even born. And unlike that 4-for-1 deal in sperm production, here, all the cell's resources, all the nutrients, they get poured into making just one single, large, viable egg. And why? Well, it's to make sure that if it is fertilized, that new little embryo has all the supplies it needs to get a running start. And this number really drives home the difference. A female is born with millions of potential egg cells, but by the time puberty hits, that number has already dropped to around 60 to 80,000 in each ovary. So yeah, this is not a factory. It's a very limited resource, and that's what defines the entire window for reproduction. Okay, so if you have this finite supply of eggs, how is their release controlled? Well, it's all managed by this masterful monthly rhythm, the menstrual cycle. You can think of it as a really complex hormonal symphony, one that prepares the body for a potential pregnancy, month after month after month. The whole cycle is kind of like a 4-act play, and it's all directed by hormones. Act 1, menstruation. Then in Act 2, estrogen takes the stage, rebuilding the uterine lining and helping an egg mature. Right around day 14, a huge spike in a hormone called LH is the big cue for the main event. Ovulation, when the egg is released. And finally, progesterone comes in to keep that uterine lining nice and cozy, just waiting for a potential arrival. And what's so clever is that the system has a built-in reset button. If that released egg isn't fertilized, that little progesterone factory just shuts down. Hormone levels fall, that uterine lining isn't needed anymore, and it's shed. Then, the whole cycle just starts all over again. Which of course brings us to the main event. All of this preparation, the factory, the vault, the hormonal symphony, it all leads up to this one single incredible moment where a new life can finally begin. And what a journey it is. It's like an epic marathon. Millions of sperms start the race, but the journey is absolutely grueling. A tiny, tiny fraction even get close. But when one sperm finally breaks through the egg's outer layer, bam! The egg instantly puts up this defensive shield, blocking all the others. It's a one-winner-takes-all situation. The two sets of genetic material then fuse together, creating a brand new single cell called a zygote. And right there, at that exact moment of fusion, a really critical piece of the puzzle is locked in for good. You know, it's a super important scientific fact that the sex of the baby is actually determined by the father, not by the mother. And here's why. It's actually pretty straightforward. Every single egg from the mother carries an X chromosome, no exceptions. But sperm are different. They can carry either an X or a Y chromosome. So if a sperm with an X gets to the egg first, you get XX, which results in a female. But if a sperm with a Y wins that race, you get XY, a male. It's really as simple as that. But wait, the journey isn't over yet. That new zygote is immediately on the move, and it starts dividing and dividing and dividing, becoming this tiny ball of cells called a blastocyst. As it travels, it finally reaches the uterus and burrows into that soft, welcoming lining we were talking about. That moment right there, that's called implantation, and it marks the official start of pregnancy. Okay, so once that implantation happens, the most astonishing construction project in the entire natural world begins. We're talking about the 9-month period of gestation, where that tiny ball of cells is going to differentiate and grow into a fully formed human being. It's incredible. And the pace of development is it's mind-blowing. Think about this. In just the first month, a heart starts to beat. By the end of the first trimester, that's only 12 weeks in. Most of the major organ systems are already there. We're talking limbs, fingers, the brain. The second trimester is when you get movement, those first little kicks, and fine details like eyelashes start to form. And by the end of the third, you have a fully developed human ready to enter the world. What an absolutely incredible transformation. So this whole 9-month journey, this amazing project, it all culminates in the final, powerful arrival, childbirth. This process, which has the technical name parturition, is actually kicked off by the baby. The fully developed fetus sends out signals to the mother's brain, basically saying, "Hey, I'm ready." This triggers the release of a hormone called oxytocin, which causes uterine contractions. And here's the cool part. Each contraction tells the brain to release even more oxytocin. It's this powerful, escalating feedback loop that just builds and builds until the baby is finally born. So, when you step back and look at the whole thing, from two totally different strategies, one based on overwhelming numbers, the other on careful conservation, to a dangerous journey, a perfectly timed hormonal symphony, and a 9-month biological miracle, it's clear we're looking at an incredibly elegant and precise system. It really just leaves you with one final thought, doesn't it? When you think about this whole intricate journey, from a single tiny cell to a complete person, what does that really tell us about the sheer nature of life?